Well, it's getting close to time for Palantir's earnings, and with the market in chaos because of all the tariff noise, Palantir's earnings are critical to see where Alex and team have Palantir performing during this turbulent time. And once again, Palantir has run up massively into earnings, and we are clearly into overvalued territory, but that could quickly change with this earnings call, just like it did last time where it fell off a cliff by 40+% after the earnings pop. So let's talk about exactly what I see happening, the three things that I'm watching for specifically, and my exact plan through it all, including a discussion about the price of Palantir stock and what you guys should do as new investors. There is so much in this video, guys. Just make sure you like the video if you like getting the truth without the hype, because that's exactly what you're going to get today, guys. You're going to get the truth without the hype, regardless of what the narrative is out there. I don't care. We're not going to get into any of that. We're going to get down to Palantir's earnings. Now, earnings season in general is usually wild and doesn't make a lot of sense, and that has held true to form once again. It's why I just buy according to my plan and avoid all the craziness around earnings, because the stock is never more manipulated than around earnings. You have to keep that in mind, guys. When we're talking about earnings and the movements after earnings, the reason why they make no sense is because they don't make any sense to anybody, because there's all kinds of crazy games being played around earnings specifically. So that's why I don't really try to predict where the stock's going to go afterwards and stuff like that, because it's kind of useless, because there's so many other factors in play. What matters is, how is the business performing? Nothing else. All the other price action noise and this chart, this and that, doesn't matter. You have to see where the business is performing, which we've been discussing earnings on specific companies daily, listening to the calls together in real time, like we're getting ready to do with Palantir's earnings coming up. And if you're serious about learning how to invest and you want to work directly with me and go through all that in regards to Palantir and everything else, make sure you take advantage of the earnings flash sale and get in before the sale ends. We'll talk more about it at the end of this video. We need to talk about Palantir. So Palantir stock, as we all know, you guys know this, Palantir stock is just different from most other stocks in the stock market. There's basically this constant battle with this stock still to this day. Despite the performance, despite everything we've seen, there's still this battle. Basically, is it a future $1 trillion company and it's on its way there? Or is it just another trash company stock destined to be bankrupt in a few years or just be at the bottom of the bin and they manipulate the financials and everything else like that? I mean, seriously, people either see it as another stock that Wall Street's late to, just like typical Wall Street, or it's complete overhyped garbage doomed to fail. That's kind of the divide that's there. And unfortunately, with this earnings call, I think both sides will have more talking points that will bolster their positions, which means it's essentially going to remain extremely divided for right now. But comment down below and tell me where you guys stand on the stock. I mean, is it overhyped trash or, destined to fail? Or is it the next trillion-dollar company, or maybe somewhere in between? Comment down below and let me know. So here are the three things I'm watching for in this earnings call with Palantir, then we'll get into everything else. So the first is the guidance on new contracts. Now, once again, like they do every quarter, they've had several new contracts that were announced. And once again, I'm sure we'll see the lag in government contract payouts and a lot of those other things that we see, basically every quarter for Palantir, right? Pretty normal for our government to be behind in terms of payments. We can't pass a budget. I don't know. We pass one, but then we'll argue about it next, session in Congress, whatever. It's not shocking to anybody out there, which also proves that the business model is sticky, like most of us already knew. And at this stage, it's going to be very hard for customers, especially governments, to switch vendors. And please, guys, when we're talking about new contracts, don't get me started on the commercial versus the government side of the business. I have no idea what the business will look like. I have no idea what the mix will be. And I don't care either, if I'm being honest. Literally, every earnings call, regardless of how it goes, there's complaints about it. The government grows, and there's a bunch of folks out there saying, "Ooh, gosh, it's kind of a problem. We'd like to see more commercial growth." And then, of course, the next quarter, the commercial growth grows past the government growth, or at a faster clip than the government growth. And well, now we see that the government isn't growing at the same pace that it was before, or more than the commercial. So now that's a problem. I mean, Palantir cures cancer. I'm sure there's somebody out there that would have a problem with it. For me personally, as long as they guide to more growth in the number of contracts, or continued growth in the number of contracts, I'm not going to put too much stock into whether it's commercial or government or whatever. I want growth overall. And that's what I'm looking at. Not a media narrative, not anything else like that. That's what I'm looking at. But you're going to see the CNBC folks and some YouTubers and some other experts out there discussing these points as if it really freaking matters whether it's government or commercial. The reality is it doesn't matter in the end. So the second thing is the impact of the trade war. All right, looks like we finally have the growth engine roaring back to life once again in regards to Palantir. And now trade wars put a lot of companies in kind of a holding pattern with a lot of their different spending, which of course means are some of these companies cutting back on what they had planned to spend with Palantir, or maybe their plans to get into Palantir later this year or whatever the case is. Do they get delayed? But I will say this, on the flip side of that, as this trade war stuff kind of drags on, your business getting more efficient is essential to navigating this time period, especially businesses that are disproportionately affected by all the tariff stuff. So that could be a huge boom for Palantir and an acceleration in some areas that maybe we wouldn't have seen otherwise if there wasn't this trade war going on. And of course, the other possibility is it could just be business as usual because, according to Alex, they have way more demand than supply. So even if some folks kind of drop off, the best spot to be in is having way more demand than supply, right? I mean, essentially, if you got demand here, your supply is here, well, we could have a good chunk of our demand come off, and this is all the supply we had anyway, so that's all we could meet. So you may stay have more supply than demand, or maybe it's close to even there at that stage. Doesn't matter. The point being, that's the spot you want to see your business in the first place. But this is going to get tested this quarter, to say the least. So that is something I am absolutely watching, because if it does affect the business negatively, it means that the way more demand than supply claims might have been a little bit too optimistic. Now, to be clear and upfront, slow down before you go blasting me. I don't think that is the case, but it is something that I'm watching closely to make sure that that part of the bull thesis stays intact. And finally, I'm looking for guidance on share buybacks. All right, well, Wall Street likes share buybacks. I like share buybacks as well. And Palantir already has authorization to do it. So the question becomes if they're planning to do some buybacks this year, and why or why not. Now, there are goods and bads with buybacks. So regardless of the answer, the explanation will kind of tip the hand as to where Palantir thinks it's going over the next year or two. Now, obviously, the price is crazy expensive right now, and I really wouldn't want them buying back necessarily at these particular prices, but we did get some decent pricing earlier on in the quarter that they may have grabbed some shares on. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But if they say, yes, we are buying back because we believe the price today, or right around the price today, is going to be cheap in a year or two's time, then they expect big numbers, even if they don't guide to it. It's kind of one of those tip of the hat, or kind of a little insider slide in there, letting you know, hey, we expect a lot more into the future. Now, they could also say, no, we don't really plan on doing any buybacks right now, especially at this price, but because they feel that they can make a lot more money putting that money to work in other opportunities until that price cools off. Now, that again is a bullish sign from management in the end, so I'm going to be listening for that and see what clues we can glean from those answers. Now, kind of bigger picture here, you have to keep in mind that Alex and the team over there are not trying to win the battle today. And honestly, they're not even concerned with any of that sort of talk or anything else. If you did your due diligence on this management team and how they run the business, you know that is not where their focus lies. So you cannot expect these, huge, incredible, blown out of the water earnings calls if they're not gearing the business towards that in the first place. So what do I think happens on this earnings call? All right, so here's the bottom line with that. I'll give it to you guys straight. I think Palantir beats on revenue, also puts up a beat on EPS, and increases free cash flow once again. And for those of you guys that don't understand their structure and how they report and everything else and kind of all the different intricacies with their financials, that free cash flow number is the number to watch the most based upon how they do their accounting. So barring a one-time charge of some sort that kind of lowers that number or something else of that nature, that is the metric that really shows you what Alex and team are doing over there. And if we get a big beat, and more importantly, I think this is not expected by any stretch, but if we get a nice beat and then all of a sudden they give us a raise in guidance when everybody else is pausing or lowering their guidance, look out. That's all I can say at that stage. I don't think that's the most likely scenario, but it's definitely something that I've thought about and I'm planning on. But what am I doing personally, and what would I do as a newer investor? All right, let's discuss the price of Palantir stock today and all the noise around it everywhere. I mean, I can't seem to avoid it no matter where I go, and I hate these types of discussions, but let's address it anyways. So let me be clear and upfront with this fact. You cannot time the market. Guys, nobody can time the market, But yet, I am still seeing many people throwing up all kinds of pretty charts and graphs and lines and everything else, making 337 different price predictions per day on stocks, including Palantir. And then on the flip side of it, I have others telling me about predictions that I've made that I've never made in regards to Palantir. I mean, I've only said what price I would buy more shares at, as I have a full position plus bonus shares upon bonus shares upon bonus shares. That's it. I've routinely said for the entire history of the channel, I have no clue as to where the stock is going over that time frame. Nobody can guess which direction the market's going in the short term. I'm also not building out a position. I already have one. And if you don't have a position built out, we'll discuss what to do with that in just a second here. But I have no idea how anyone can keep up with all the guesswork, much less having an effective plan to execute to. And that guesswork never works out very good over the long run in general. And that's not even including just people straight up making up stuff down in the comments or whatever about what I said. It's kind of funny at this stage. But if you're a long-term investor, keep this in mind. What happens tomorrow is not really your concern, since nobody knows what will happen with any degree of accuracy. So what is the point in making any short-term predictions? If Warren Buffett can't do it, Peter Lynch can't do it, all the greats tell you, I can't do it, and I don't know anybody else that can either. Why would I even bother doing that as well? So that means if you're worried about what Palantir is going to do tomorrow, or, kind of guessing the top or where it's going to fall, or guessing if the Fed does this, or buying and selling based upon recession indicators or moving averages, all this other stuff like that, then you're basically short-term speculating or trying to time the market. Unless you're trading, then you're playing a whole different game. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about long-term buy and hold investors who are trying to play these sorts of games. You can phrase it however you want, but that is what you are doing. You are short-term speculating, and nobody can do it over the long run with any accuracy. This is why having your plan set before the earnings call is key. Now, I know many of you guys hate that I say it, but planning and having price targets is key to investing. So for me, I am simply sitting back, watching the numbers, and then watching what Wall Street does. But more importantly, I'm looking to see if they make any adjustments to guidance, so I know exactly how overvalued Palantir is at that time, because I don't think they're going to have such incredible blow it out of the water earnings that it'll suddenly make it undervalued. I just don't. That'd be great. That'd be incredible. I'm going to win massive if they do, but I just don't see that. By any metric right now, it is overvalued. But guess what, guys? That is okay. It is early in its growth stage. It's early in its profitability stage, and this sort of stuff happens. Palantir seems to have unlimited demand, growth rates accelerating, and other positive things that tell me the valuation will continue to come down based upon performance. But keep in mind, that also doesn't mean that Wall Street can't keep pumping it up either to keep it solidly in overvalued territory. Again, you guys know I hate to speculate, so I'm not going to sit around here and create little pretty charts and graphs and then use it to make it seem like I have some magical way of giving you guys numbers that are just basically pure speculation. That sort of stuff is just fool's gold. And again, it's pure speculation, and I'm not going to do that. So for me, unless we get an increase in guidance, in my situation personally, I don't see a point in increasing my buy point where I would look to add more shares of Palantir because of my situation, because I have a full position, because I have all the shares that I want, plus bonus shares, plus bonus shares, plus bonus shares. It's a great company. I would love to add more. I just don't see a point in being that aggressive. And remember, stocks can disconnect from the fundamentals for a very long time. I've experienced before. I'll experience it again. And who knows if this is one of those situations or not. I sure as heck don't. I'm just prepared. So if the earnings are good and people freak out because Alex typed the table 4 times in 5 seconds and he got angry at an analyst and he, threw his pencil and he showed up in a black t-shirt rather than a white t-shirt, and then, all the tariff noise kicks up all of a sudden and the narrative shifts again, and now all of a sudden Palantir is doomed and a terrible company and the price falls significantly to my price target or close, well, guess what, guys? I'm absolutely going to be a buyer again because I have cash ready to deploy, because I don't care about the short-term price action or the narrative or anything else. I care about how the business is performing, and I believe on this earnings call, it's going to prove that it's performing very, very well. Now, for those of you guys looking to build out a position, then obviously your plan will need to be very different. That's why following others, including myself and anybody else out there, is so dangerous, because my price target that I want to buy more shares at can only reflect my situation, my share count, my, basically portfolio size. Where does this stock fit in my portfolio, my plan, my risk tolerance, and on and on and on. And it can't reflect yours, and it's probably not going to reflect yours. So if I was starting out today, this is Luke starting out today, I would do exactly what I've been saying for years on this channel in regards to Palantir stock or any other stock that I cover. I would simply start a DCA. It is statistically hard to beat if you just do it over the long run, and then it doesn't matter what the price does. You are buying regardless, right? Go back 3 years ago. Look at what your average would be if you had done that the previous 3 years, just consistently bought it. But more importantly than that, more importantly than your average, which would be crazy low, the most important thing is how many shares would you have because you bought consistently for 3 years. Share count is what matters. And yes, price targets and having price targets and kind of doing a modified DCA is a way to beat DCA. That's probably one of the only ways you can beat it. But you have to have done full due diligence. You have to have done an actual evaluation and everything involved in order to be able to do that. If you're simply looking for price targets from others and hoping to buy and get out and do all this other crazy stuff like that, you're just better off DCAing until you get good at it and you can do it all on your own. I'm sorry, that's the truth without the hype. Just do a simple DCA. And if you want to get serious about getting that alpha, getting that extra from that modified DCA so you can have a full position in a stock like Palantir with an average in the teens or even single digits, and you want to work directly with me, make sure you take advantage of the earnings flash sale that ends very soon, where you get direct access to me. You get 5 free courses. You get your free coaching. You get to be a part of the best 6, 7, and 8-figure Discord out there. Tons of videos that come out every week. We discuss earnings. We go live on earnings calls. Guys, there's so much involved. Just check out the pinned comments, see everything that you get with a membership, and see if a membership's right for you. And click this video here if you want to see exactly what I'm buying in this market. And click here to see my exact plan for this market. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.